Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is David. If you're new to drawing or you're picking up a pencil again after a couple years and trying to get back into art, one of the things you might encounter that might be really frustrating is how to recognize what might be wrong with your drawing. And this can be really difficult if you're not in a class setting or working with an instructor, to have someone that isn't there to give you advice or give you a second set of eyes on what you've done. It's really hard to see for yourself sometimes what might be the problem that you're dealing with. So I thought it'd be really helpful to offer you some tips on how you can do this yourself and start to hone your eye to see what you should be looking out for in pretty much any drawing you do, but also in anything you're creating visually in the visual arts. So drawing is a very humbling practice. So no matter what level you're at, and if you become a professional master artist, you're always going to have things that you see that can be improved. And this is never going to go away. It's just the nature of the creative process. So don't ever think to yourself that there's a level you get to where you know how to draw and that's the finish line. So pretty much like anything else in life, it really doesn't work that way. So what happened with me when I was doing this drawing, I started this YouTube channel, and you can see here I'm drawing with the pad of paper flat on a tabletop. So that's unusual in the way you usually would draw. You usually want to have your pad of paper perpendicular to you so that it's straight on and you're viewing it directly versus overhead. But for ease of creating these tutorials, it made sense to have the tripod and the camera directly over the top of the sketching surface so that I could create the videos. But it kind of led to an interesting problem that I had with my own drawings, and these tips that I can give you here today. Okay, so how do you spot flaws in your drawing? There's two simple methods that you can do. One of them, which is newer just because of the age we live in and technology. One that's just a tried and true method that you do with anything you're creating visually, and that is to step back. So no matter the size of the drawing or even like the level of finish, so if you're thinking it's just a small sketch and not something you're going to end up, hanging on your wall, it really doesn't matter. That you should always step back a couple of feet and prop your drawing up so you're viewing it straight on versus overhead, and step back, and it's going to give you a whole new perspective on what you have created. So changing this perspective, adding some distance between you and the piece, is going to give you a new view on it. You're going to see things that you didn't see being, just a foot or two from the drawing while you're working on it. The other tip, which is really helpful, is to flip your drawing. Think of this as a reverse image, and you can easily accomplish this by snapping a photo of the drawing on your phone and then going into your photo app and flipping the photo around and getting a new perspective on this. Back when I was in high school, before the age of phones, something my instructor told me that he would have us do is to look at your drawing in a mirror. So you're looking at the reverse image in a mirror, and that's giving you a whole new perspective on it. So you will start to get to a point, the more you draw, that you're going to start to notice flaws and errors in what you put on the paper without having to flop it all the time. But that's going to take a little bit of time to get there and to train your eye. So when I stepped back from this drawing, I immediately noticed there was some major problems with the placement of this woman's ear, and then also the left side of her face and her cheekbone and her chin. You can see the distance between the nose and that left side of her face when you look at the original drawing is pretty narrow, and in the drawing I did, there's way too much space there. And I noticed the position of her ear was way too low. A general rule of thumb here is you want the bottom of the earlobe to more or less align with the position of the lips. So you should never be afraid to admit when you've made an error, and it's just part of the process of drawing. No matter how good you get, you're always going to be seeing something else that can be improved and something that could be better. It's just the nature of art. You could look at this as something that's going to always help you to be better because it's going to train yourself to see what's wrong on your own.